She smiled at me like she already knew, not just what I wanted to say, but what I'd never dared to. And in that second, I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't the kind of smile that invited conversation. It was the kind that left you standing there, wondering what she saw in you that you couldn't see yourself. Her name was Mara. I met her the first week I moved into town, in the back corner of a small art supply store that smelled faintly of turpentine and dust. She was reaching for a box of charcoal pencils when one slipped from her hand and rolled toward my shoes. I picked it up, held it out. Her fingers brushed mine, a small thing, but it felt like someone had turned the volume down on the world. She said, "You draw?" I nodded, probably too quickly. "Trying to." She smiled again, that quiet, knowing kind. "Trying counts?" she said. That was it. Just a few words. But something about her voice stayed with me, low, steady, like she'd learned to speak softly so people would have to lean closer. I started going back. First for paint, then for brushes, then for reasons I didn't bother inventing. Sometimes she'd be restocking the shelves, sleeves rolled to her elbows, a smudge of graphite near her wrist. She never rushed conversation. She'd pause, look up, give half her attention to the task and half to me. It made every moment feel like a secret exchange. There was something careful about the way she moved, not cautious, just deliberate. Like she was always a beat ahead of her surroundings. And me, I was too aware of everything. The way her hair caught in the light, the faint scent of rain and soap when she walked past, the warmth that lingered after she handed me my change. It wasn't just attraction. It was recognition. Like she saw something unfinished in me, and it didn't scare her. One evening, near closing, I stopped by again. The store was empty. Rain pressed softly against the glass windows. She was behind the counter, counting bills with slow precision. "You're here late," she said without looking up. "So are you," I said. She smiled, but didn't answer. There was a pause, the kind that stretches thin before it breaks. I watched the curve of her wrist as she turned off the register. She watched the reflection of me in the glass door. "Do you ever?" I started, then stopped. I didn't even know what I was trying to ask. She looked at me then, directly. No polite buffer, no smile to hide behind. Just her eyes, calm, unreadable. Her hand brushed against mine again when she passed me the receipt, slower this time. For a moment, neither of us moved. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. A drop of rain slid down the window. Her fingers lingered, then withdrew. "You should go before it gets worse out there," she said, voice steady but too soft to be casual. I didn't move. "And you?" "I live upstairs," she said. That surprised me, though I wasn't sure why. It made sense. She felt like part of the building itself, quiet, grounded, unchanging. Our eyes met once more. Something flickered, interest, regret, maybe both. Then the bell above the door chimed. We both turned. A man stepped in, gray coat, water dripping from his umbrella. He looked at her first, then at me. Mara's face shifted, calm, practiced. The kind of expression that closes a chapter before it starts. I stood there, caught between leaving and staying, between what I wanted and what I shouldn't want yet. And she smiled again. But this time, it wasn't for me. I didn't see her for a week after that night. But she was everywhere, in the smell of graphite on my fingers, in the sound of rain against the window of my apartment. Every small thing that reminded me I'd imagined more than I should. When I finally went back, the store felt different. Brighter, maybe? Or emptier. She was rearranging a display near the window. Sleeves rolled again, hair pulled back in a way that revealed the small silver line of an old scar just beneath her jaw. I'd never noticed it before. "Long time," she said without turning. I hesitated at the door. I wasn't sure if I should come back. That made her stop. She looked over her shoulder, eyes narrowing just a fraction, not angry, just measuring. Then, quietly, and yet here you are. We worked in near silence as she sorted canvases, me pretending to browse. Every so often, our hands brushed, once when I reached for a palette knife, once when she passed me a box of ink. Each time, she moved away too quickly, as if correcting a mistake. You're not from here, are you? She asked finally. No, I said. Moved after graduation. Needed space, I guess. From what? I shrugged. From people who keep asking if I'm doing something real with my life. She smiled faintly. Ah. The invisible jury. Her tone softened something in me. Maybe it was the way she said it, like she'd sat before that same jury once and lost. Later, when the shop emptied, she poured 2 cups of tea from an old chipped kettle near the register. Don't tell anyone, she said, sliding one toward me. I'm not supposed to let customers linger. Then I'm not a customer, I said. That earned me a glance, quick, sharp, but not unkind. Careful, she said. You sound like someone who doesn't know what he wants. I do, I said, before I could stop myself. Silence. Then her lips curved, not into a smile, exactly, but something quieter. A knowing acceptance. You remind me of someone, she said, wrapping her hands around her cup. He used to sit right where you are now years ago. Said he liked the smell of ink and wood. Said it calmed him down. What happened to him? She looked down. He stopped coming. Outside, the light had turned amber, soft and stretched thin. I stood to leave, but she reached out. A small, instinctive movement, and her hand rested on my arm. Warm. Steady. For a second, she didn't pull away. Her thumb brushed against the inside of my wrist, absent-minded, almost, as if she were smoothing out a crease that wasn't there. Then she caught herself and stepped back, exhaling like someone waking from a dream. I should close up, she murmured. I nodded, but neither of us moved. The clock ticked once, twice, and in that space between seconds, before she turned off the lights, I realized we were both pretending not to feel the same thing. Only one of us was better at it. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. It was a Saturday morning, sunlight pouring through the windows, dust drifting in lazy spirals. She was helping a woman pick out sketchbooks, her tone warm, professional, distant. The version of her that belonged to the world. I almost turned to leave. Then she saw me, just a glance, but enough to stop me in place. Something flickered behind her eyes. Something she quickly buried. When the customer left, she walked over, wiping her hands on a rag. You're early, she said. I didn't realize there were hours for showing up. I answered. Her mouth twitched. There are. You just keep breaking them. We were closer than usual that day, moving around each other in the narrow aisles. The space between us felt charged, as if even air had learned to hold its breath. At one point, I bent to pick up a fallen brush. She did too. Our heads nearly touched. She froze, just slightly, a pause that hung too long to be casual. Her hair brushed my cheek. I caught the faintest scent of paint and citrus, something warm beneath it, something that felt too personal to notice. When she straightened, she didn't meet my eyes. Eli, she said softly, almost warningly. I didn't move. What? But before she could answer, the door opened. The bell's chime cut through the quiet like a blade. A young woman stepped inside, maybe late 20s. Pretty familiar somehow. She smiled when she saw Mara. Mara! You didn't answer my message. Mara's posture shifted, a half-inch straighter, a practiced calm. Sorry, Claire. I've been busy. Claire's gaze landed on me, curious. And you are? Before I could speak, Mara said, he's one of the local illustrators. Comes by for supplies. Her tone was even, professional. And yet, when our eyes met, hers held an apology. Claire smiled politely. Nice to meet you. She turned back to Mara. Dinner tonight? You promised. Right, Mara said. I'll be there. The hesitation didn't go unnoticed. When Claire finally left, the silence returned, heavier this time. Mara leaned against the counter, rubbing her temple. You shouldn't have been here. You didn't seem to mind before. That's not the point. Then what is? She looked up. For once, she didn't have an answer. I stepped closer, not thinking, just drawn, by habit, by something I couldn't name anymore. Her eyes widened, but she didn't step back. I could feel her breath, warm and uneven. The air between us hummed. Her hand lifted, almost touching my shirt before she stopped herself. Don't, she whispered. I'm not doing anything, I said. But my voice gave me away. You are, she murmured. You always are. The words hit harder than they should have. For a moment, we stood there, two people on the edge of something neither could justify. Then, from somewhere behind the counter, her phone buzzed. The sound startled her. She moved back fast, nearly knocking over a jar of brushes. I caught it before it fell. Our fingers collided again, quick, electric, unfinished. She exhaled sharply. Go home, Eli. I didn't argue this time. But at the door, I looked back. She hadn't moved. Her hand rested on the counter, trembling just enough to betray her. And that was when I knew she felt it too. Even if she'd never let herself say it. I didn't see her for 3 days. 3 long, dragging days where everything else felt like a cheap imitation of being alive. Then one evening, I passed the shop and saw the light still on. It was nearly 10. The street was empty, slick with rain. Through the glass, she was sitting behind the counter, elbows on the desk, staring at something unseen. Not the picture-perfect version of her, the one who spoke in measured tones and smiled with restraint, but a woman worn thin by her own thoughts. I should have kept walking. Instead, I knocked. She looked up, startled, then sighed. You shouldn't be here. I know. But she unlocked the door anyway. Inside, the air smelled faintly of rain and turpentine. She'd turned off most of the lights. Just the desk lamp remained, casting a soft, golden halo around her. What are you doing here this late? I asked. Inventory, she said, though the ledger beside her was still closed. I took a step closer. You're lying. She looked up, half smiling. You've gotten better at noticing things. Maybe I've just started looking harder. That broke her composure for a second. Her jaw tensed. Eli, what? This, whatever this is, it's dangerous. Why? Her eyes lifted to mine, steady and tired. Because people talk. Because you're young. Because you're what? I stepped closer again. Alive? Her breath caught. I could hear it. The rain outside filled the silence, steady, relentless. She shook her head slowly, but didn't move away when I reached out. My fingers brushed a strand of hair from her cheek, and she didn't flinch. Her eyes closed, just for a moment, as if giving in to something she couldn't keep buried. Mara, I said quietly, tell me you don't want this, and I'll go. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Instead, she whispered, you don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. That made her look up. And whatever wall she'd built between us cracked right down the center. She stood, slow and deliberate, until we were only inches apart. The air between us shifted, heat and breath and heartbeat. Her hand brushed against my chest as she passed, but she didn't keep walking. She stopped behind me. I could feel her, close enough that her breath touched the back of my neck. "You shouldn't do this," she murmured, voice barely audible. "Then stop me," I said. Silence. Then her fingers brushed my wrist, traced down to my palm. She held it, not tightly, but as if testing what it meant. I turned, slowly, until our faces were nearly aligned. Her eyes were glassy, uncertain. My pulse was so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. "Eli," she said, almost a plea. "What?" "This doesn't end the way you think." "Maybe not," I said. "But it has to start somehow." Her breath hitched. The space between us disappeared until only a whisper remained. Her hand rose to my chest again, and I thought, this was it. Then, outside, headlights swept across the window. She froze. The moment shattered. The headlights faded, leaving them both standing in the dim gold wash of the desk lamp, breathing like they'd run somewhere. Mara was the first to move. She turned away, hand trembling as she reached for the ledger, pretending to rearrange papers that didn't need rearranging. "Who was that?" I asked, still half whispering. She didn't look up. "My sister," she said too quickly. "She drives by sometimes." I watched her shoulders rise, then fall. A small lie, too sharp around the edges. "Mara." She turned then, slower this time, something defensive tightening behind her eyes. "What do you want me to say, Eli? That this is fine? That I'm fine?" "No," I said. "Just something true." The words hung there, heavy. She laughed once, quiet, hollow. "You really want the truth?" "Yes." She closed her eyes. "Then here it is." When she opened them again, there was no distance left in her face. Just exhaustion, regret, and something dangerously close to longing. "I was married," she said, "for 12 years. He left. Or maybe I left first. I'm not sure anymore. But we built this place together, every inch of it. And every night I stay late, I tell myself it's because of the work." Her voice dropped. "It's not." I didn't move. "I stay because if I go home," she said, "it's too quiet. And I can't stand the sound of what's missing." Her hands were shaking. She hid them behind her back, but I saw anyway. "I didn't know," I said softly. "You weren't supposed to." For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of the streetlight outside. I stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop me. She didn't. "Mara, don't," she whispered. "Don't say my name like that." "Like what?" "Like you mean it." Her breath caught again. I reached out, almost without thinking, and she let me. My fingers brushed against her wrist, tracing the edge of her pulse. "You shouldn't have told me," I said. "I had to," she answered. "You make it too easy to forget what I've already lost." The confession settled between us like static, every word charged. Then her phone buzzed on the counter, loud in the stillness. She flinched. The screen lit up, Claire. She didn't answer, didn't move. I glanced at her. "She's not your sister, is she?" Mara looked away. "No, then who?" Her throat tightened. "She's my ex's daughter." I froze. "You mean yes," she said quickly. "She's 27. Closer to you than me." The words hit like cold water. Everything rearranged itself in my head, suddenly sharper, riskier, realer. I didn't plan any of this," she interrupted. "You think I wanted this?" She stepped closer, fast, voice low. "You think I don't lie awake hating that I look for you every time the door opens?" Her hand pressed against my chest, not to pull me closer, just to keep herself steady. "I told you," she whispered. "This doesn't end clean." I covered her hand with mine, feeling it tremble beneath my palm. Then maybe it doesn't have to end yet, I said. She exhaled, shaking her head. You don't know what you're doing. Neither do you. And for the first time, she didn't deny it. The next evening, the shop was dark, closed, but the upstairs light was on. I stood outside for a long time, listening to the rain. The air smelled of wet concrete and old paint. I told myself to turn around, to go home, to leave it unfinished before it broke something that couldn't be fixed. I didn't. When I knocked, the door opened halfway before she even asked who it was. Her hair was down, damp at the ends. She wore a soft gray sweater, sleeves pulled over her hands. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. Then, quietly, she said, "You shouldn't be here." "I know," I said, "but you left the light on." The room upstairs was small, lined with sketches tacked unevenly on the walls, fragments of faces, unfinished drawings, glimpses of what she never showed anyone. She stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the rain blur the streetlights below. "I told myself if you came back," she said, "I'd tell you to leave." "Then tell me." She turned. "Don't make it harder." "I'm not trying to," I said. "I just—" But she was already shaking her head. "You think this is some kind of story, don't you? That there's a version of us that could work?" I didn't answer. "Eli, I've lived through endings. Real ones. The kind that stain everything that comes after." She took a step closer. "People will think I don't care what they think." She stopped then, inches away. Her breath trembled against mine. "You should." I reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her eyes closed, just briefly, like the touch itself was dangerous. "Mara," I whispered, "stop pretending you don't feel it." "I'm not pretending," she said. Her voice cracked. "I'm surviving it." Something broke open then. All the restraint, all the careful distance, it was gone. She stepped forward until her forehead rested against mine, our breaths tangling. Her hand slid to my shoulder, then paused, hovering between wanting and refusing. "Tell me to stop," she said. I didn't. Instead, I lifted my hand to her cheek, tracing the line of her jaw with my thumb. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, like even the silence was holding us there. "You don't have to be afraid," I said. She let out a low, shaky laugh. "You say that like you've never been. Not of you." Her hand tightened on my shirt, pulling me half a step closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath on my throat, her heartbeat against my chest. Then she whispered, "If I start, I won't stop." I swallowed hard. "Then don't start. Stay." That was the line, the invisible border we'd circled for weeks. Her eyes lifted to mine, searching for something, permission, maybe. Forgiveness. And then, just when the world felt like it might tilt towards something unstoppable, she stepped back. "I can't," she said. But this time, she was crying. "Not because I don't want to. Because I do." I nodded once. "Then at least we're honest now." She exhaled, shaky, relieved and wrecked at the same time. And in that silence, between what we'd almost done and what we couldn't undo, we finally understood each other completely. Not as fantasy, but as the thing we both needed and would have to live without. Weeks passed. The rain finally stopped. The shop window was filled with sunlight again, the kind that makes dust glow like it has meaning. I hadn't been back since that night, since the moment she stepped away and left me standing in the doorway, trying to figure out how to carry everything we hadn't said. Then one morning, a small package showed up at my apartment. Inside, a sketchbook. On the first page, in her handwriting, steady, careful, familiar, were 3 words: "Keep drawing, Eli." No signature. She didn't need one. I didn't plan on seeing her again. Not because I didn't want to, but because I thought maybe that was her way of ending it, with something gentle. But a week later, I saw her at the farmer's market. She was carrying a paper bag full of oranges, sunlight catching the strands of silver in her hair. She saw me before I could turn away. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she smiled, not the careful, practiced one she used at the shop. A real one. Small, a little tired, but real. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." We stood there, both laughing a little at how ordinary it felt after everything. "I wasn't sure I'd see you again," she said. "I wasn't sure you'd want to." She looked down at the ground, then back up. "I thought distance would help." "Did it?" She shook her head. "Not really." We walked for a while after that. No destination. Just the easy kind of quiet that comes when you stop pretending not to care. At one point, she stopped beside a small fountain, set her bag down, and turned to me. "You know," she said, "I used to think wanting something I couldn't have made me foolish. And now I think it makes me human." The words hung there, soft and sure. I reached out, hesitant at first, and she let me take her hand. Her fingers were warm, steady, stronger than I remembered. She didn't pull away. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. There was something more honest in that simple touch, like we'd both stopped fighting the gravity between us and finally decided to stand still. "You scare me," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because you make me feel like time isn't winning anymore." I smiled, thumb tracing a small circle against her palm. "Maybe it isn't supposed to." She leaned closer, resting her forehead against mine. Just that. No rush, no pretense. The kind of closeness that feels earned. For the first time, I didn't feel younger, and she didn't feel older. We were just two people who'd stopped running from something they already understood. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "Come by the shop tomorrow," she said. "If you still want to." "I will." And as she turned to leave, her hand brushed mine one last time, light, deliberate, a promise without words. Sometimes, the ending isn't a door closing. Sometimes, it's the sound of someone saying your name and meaning it. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?